My earliest gaming memory was the time I went upstairs and I saw my mother playing on the Sega Genesis. She offered to me to play a game, and that game ended up being the first step to a franchise that I love to this day. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sonic Retrospective, and one of the most innovative games of the franchise, Sonic 2. Sonic 2 is probably the most innovative game of the franchise, and it introduced many of the core mechanics that exist in the Sonic series today. So much, in fact, we probably should get to them before we get into the levels. First is the obvious, the sidekick. Miles Tails Prower made his debut in this game. Later Sonic games gave him an amazing IQ, however in the classic era he was a great and fantastic asset. In the next game, sadly, Tails in Sonic 2 is not the most helpful. There are times when he's amazing, don't get me wrong. He basically kills an entire boss without you having to do anything. Then, other times, especially in the special stages, he's kind of useless. In fact, he becomes more of a hindrance than a help. So, to be honest, I only recorded a few levels of Tails footage, and then after that I kind of played Sonic alone. It was more fun that way. Next is the iconic Spin Dash. Man, oh man, how many players broke their Genesis controllers just pressing down and just tapping A to see how fast you can go? And I probably should correct the mistake I made. You see, while the Spin Dash is in Sonic CD, Sonic CD came after Sonic 2, because the Spin Dash debuted in Sonic 2. I should know this. I am sorry. Though, to be honest, I don't really use the Spin Dash all that much. Don't get me wrong, it's really useful at times. However, whenever I go in a loop, I press down on the D-pad or whatever controller I have, and when I do that, I go into Spin Dash formation anyways. This is also the game that made a 7th Chaos Emerald, which also made another debut. They'll have to introduce that one a little bit later. The first stage is Emerald Hill Zone, and it's easy. It's really, really easy and kind of a Green Hill clone. It's not terrible, but let's just say if you're deciding to just run as fast as you can clear it in less than a minute. Thankfully, special stages can halt your progress, but still. Oh, and this also is a game that changed the boss structure a little bit. Every 2 acts is when there's a boss, which is a theme that's stuck out to, well, when the 3D Sonic games became a thing. And the boss of Emerald Hill is Eggman in a car with a drill, moving so slow that I have to loop this footage over and over to make this fight seem more impressive than it actually is. See, well, the thing is, the boss difficulty in this game varies, which is nice, but it varies way too much. Sometimes, like here, they are so easy it hurts. Other times, they're so cheap due to very poor design that you die so many times, and if you die all the time, and you're super far in the game, you start all the way back from the beginning with all of your progress lost. And it's not really your own fault, it really is due to the poor designs. Very rarely do I consider any of these boss fights balanced. The only time this happens is the final 2 bosses of the game. The next stage is a stage that's uber and super popular, and it's used over and over and over again. Chemical Plant Zone. This stage is a lot better, and I can see why it's so popular and so famous. This level is awesome. High-speed gameplay combined with a slow platforming section that doesn't feel encumbersome. And also, obviously, the infamous pink water of doom. Not only that, but the boss is a lot better. Eggman is taking chemicals to use against you. However, the floor behind him moves, so you have to be careful not to fall in when you jump in and attack him. This is kind of the in-between between easy and cheap, so it's okay-ish. Though, if you want a funny story, when I played Sonic and Tails to get the footage for Tails, I had Tails solo the entire boss. I literally didn't have to do a thing. Awesome jump, little buddy. After that, it's the Growl Zone, and this is alright. I mean, obviously it's the water level, so you're going to go a little bit slow. However, believe it or not, you can actually avoid all of the water if you take the up route. And only, you really have to fall in it once in a while. And of course, hear the infamous drowning music, but hey. The main problem with this level is that the enemies are kind of cheap and very annoying, which is a pain when you're trying to get the rings for the special stages. The boss in this level also has my favorite hacks in any game in the Sonic franchise. If you just wait patiently, you can jump on the top of the pillars as it rises before Eggman, hits it with a mallet. He can't really hurt you when you're up there, and all you have to do is just jump on him over and over and over again, and then his fight just becomes really, really easy. As with any Sonic game, there is the traditional Casino Glamour level, and the most famous Casino Glamour level is in Sonic 2. The one, the only, Casino Night. This is one of the most favorite Sonic levels in any Sonic game from the entire fandom, and it's one of my personal favorites too. I think mainly because of the slot machine mechanic. It's so much fun to get richly rewarded or groan when Eggman sucks up your rings out of you. The level itself is chaos, but the good kind of chaos. It never feels like it's out of your control and you can't do anything like in Sonic CD. It's also helpful that this boss fight is actually pretty okay, and the spin dash is a lot of fun to use when you do it. I love spinning up the wall and then just jumping off and falling on top of Eggman. It's still easy, but it's the fun kind of easy. After that is Hilltop Zone, and before we do the stage itself, I kind of need to address something because I'm sure you heard it because I put the soundtrack in the background of each level, but it still needs to be addressed. The soundtrack in Sonic 2 is probably, debatably, the best Sonic soundtrack of all time. It flows so perfectly. There's a nice melody to it. Each stage feels like the soundtrack fits the mood, and I love every track quality. Even the boss themes, despite how easy the bosses are still really good. However, back to Hilltop Zone itself, the stage is kind of average. Don't get me wrong, it's fun to race up the hill so you don't get fried, and of course the really funny spring chop where you just jump in and it goes back and forth all the time. However, the level itself is kind of meh, and the boss is really easy. Just make sure you have a ring, jump on this machine multiple times, get burned, collect ring, jump down, repeat if necessary. It's kind of boring. Before we get into the next stage, which is probably my favorite stage of the whole game, I can finally talk about the special stages and debut one of the series' most iconic and important moments. The special stages of Sonic 2 are Sonic running down a long tube of tunnels and trying to collect enough rings to pass through the 3 stages. Avoid the black spikes because they take away rings, and then, well, you get a Chaos Emerald at the end. You access these stages by collecting 50 rings to jump into a checkpoint, which thankfully never became a factor again because it was all kind of annoying, especially in cheap stages where you get hit a lot. If you collect all 7, Super Freakin Supersonic. This is another thing that's lasted throughout every Sonic game since. Collect 50 rings, jump, and well, Sonic transforms. This is probably the best move the Sonic franchise has ever made. And yes, I can make the obvious DBZ joke, however the impact itself on the franchise can't be understated. However, as cool as this is, as cool as Supersonic is and how amazing Sonic is, we should probably address something. Supersonic can be both very useful and very annoying. Supersonic is very useful on some of the harder bosses because he makes the cheap tactics, well, kind of boring. And not only that, you can just wreck house. However, sometimes, actually all the time, he is too fast. Uncontrollably fast. And if you remember my Sonic CD review, you know how much I hated that. Sometimes this speed is very handy when you can avoid a very difficult platforming session, but if you need to do some slow platforming, well, you're kind of doomed. Also, something that's also kind of a thing in the 2D Sonic games that I didn't like, and I still don't like, is that when you transform into Supersonic, you cut out the entire soundtrack. Also, in Sonic 2, you have zero control of when you transform. You collect 50 rings, you have enough Chaos Emeralds, and then bam, Supersonic. Eventually, I found myself getting intentionally hit so I can hear the game's awesome soundtrack. Even if the Supersonic theme is really good and fits in perfectly, though it does improve. It improves so much more in the next game and games afterwards. But now that we got Supersonic out of the way, I'm going to talk about my favorite level of the entire game, and one of my favorite levels of the franchise. A stage I love so much that its music I used for the Friendship is Terrors reviews, and to build up the game of the end credits for the Sonic CD review. This is Mystic Cave Zone. Really good dark atmosphere. The platforming is difficult, especially if you go safer, but the music is fantastic. And of course, I have to talk about the infamous Drop of Doom. The boss, again, I put into a cheap category, but I had Supersonic, so it got easy. However, you don't have Supersonic, the reason why I put him in the cheap category is because, well, when the spikes drop, they kind of hit you. And it's hard to hit Eggman. Next is Oil Ocean Zone, which is, it's okay. I mean, it's kind of cool to slide around in the oil, dodge the spikes, and of course those ball things that spew you out in top speeds as you fly in the air like a cannon. It's a lot of fun. The boss, however, is not. He comes in this little submarine, and you can jump on Eggman so many times that, well, you're done in basically 2 tries if you do it right. I actually think this is the easiest boss in Sonic history. The next stage, however, is a fantastic stage. And of course, the music is unbelievable. But the fun comes down to the stage itself. That would be Metropolis Zone. There's, of course, the fun little screw things, the going up and down these tubes that launch you everywhere, the high-speed blast action, and then, however, my mood is cheapened because the boss is unbelievably cheap, especially if you don't have Supersonic, which at the time I did not. You have no choice but to get hit by those spinning ball things. I have tried several times to not get smacked by it, but it's almost impossible not to. It's just irritating. After that is Sky Chase Zone, and this is a pretty fun level. It shows off Tails' ability as a pilot, which will become a major factor in Sonic games later. And while you're around doing that and kicking Eggman Robot butt with him constantly under you, you have to laugh at something that has been addressed a lot of times, but I need to address it now because it's so funny here. It's a common fact that if you break a robot in a Sonic game, an animal flies out. However, if you break a robot here, the animals that fall out are chickens and turtles. Animals that can't fly. Because I have a morbid sense of humor, here's how the stage should sound. Sky Chase Zone is actually the Act 1 of the True Zone, Winged Fortress Zone. It opens up with something kinda shocking. Tails got shot down by a laser. And this is where the problems with Supersonic comes in. However, Supersonic, thankfully, does, after I figured it out 1,000 times of dying, have a way to avoid those platformings. When you get to a certain point, you can just jump over the top, and thankfully I was high on lives when I figured that out. And the boss is probably really, really challenging, but again, thankfully Supersonic, and he makes everything easy. But the game is done holding your hands. The game has had enough. The next zone is the Boss Rush Zone. The next zone is where I think the most fair bosses live. The next zone is the Death Egg Zone. And don't get used to that theme, folks, because it doesn't even last that long, even though it's amazingly epic. If you aren't careful, you are going to die a lot. Thankfully, having the Steam version, I can save my progress on these games. However, the game is done holding your hand here. There are no rings at all. It's just you against two of Eggman's toughest creations. The first is being Silver Sonic. Silver Sonic knows all the things Sonic knows in this game, and you gotta be careful when you hit. You go too far, and you die. You jump where you're not supposed to, you will die. And you will die a lot. However, once you figure out his pattern, thankfully it becomes a lot easier. However, that's not what the boss of this level is. This boss, after that, is the most iconic boss of the Sonic franchise. The Sonic bosses of Sonic bosses. The Death Egg Robot. This boss is the boss we have been waiting for. This boss is challenging, it's hard, and you better have a good strategy to win here. Otherwise, you're going to die a lot. And I will keep in mind that I was lucky and I had the Steam version. If you played it legitimately and you died here all the time and get a game over here, you have to start all the way back from the beginning. There is no checkpoint system, and the game, again, I repeat, done holding your hand. The strategy I found that works out best is when he tries to figure out a way to flatten you, spin dash to the other side, let his spike arms rush out, and then rush to the other side to get your hit in. It is a tedious strategy, but it does work. After defeating the Eggman robot, though, Sonic bails and gets out of there. Then some weird black and white images of Tails shows up, and he's basically saying, that's all I can stand. I can't stand some more. I'm going to save my best friend, and flies up to catch Sonic. However, mid-fall, Sonic somehow found 50 rings on his way down and floats down as Supersonic, doing a dramatic pose for the camera. Do I even need to say it? This game is amazing. Sonic 2 set the groundwork for many series staples. The Spin Dash, Tails, Supersonic, 7 Emeralds. This is one of the best 2D platformers of all time, and for good reasons. However, next time we get into my second favorite 2D Sonic platformer of all time. A game that actually held the title as my favorite Sonic 2D platformer of all time, until a certain game came out last year. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going into the world of Sonic 3 and Knuckles.